Warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. This is the news at 7 on NTA International. We're live here in Abuja. I'm Ruth Aguela. Let's bring you the headlines. Federal Executive Council approves multi-billion naira Kano Maradi Rail project to boost trade between Nigeria and the Niger Republic. World celebrates hearing impaired persons as stakeholders seek greater awareness on sign language usage. And tanker fire claims several lives in Lokoja, Kogi State. The Federal Executive Council has approved over $1.9 billion for the construction of a rail line linking Kano to Maradi in the Republic of Niger. The Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, announced this while briefing journalists after the weekly meeting of the Federal Executive Council. Let's get the details from State House correspondent Adamu Sambo, who report on this and all the resolutions aimed at enhancing the nation's critical infrastructure, security and economic well-being.
The meeting, 25th in its series for the year 2020 and 16th to be held virtually in the new normal, was presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. The approval for the award of contract for the Kano, Katsina, Jibia, Maradi in Niger Republic, as well as Dutse in Jigawa State, was a fulfillment of the promise made by President Muhammadu Buhari in his 2020 New Year message to the nation. Transportation Minister Rotimi Amechi said the rail project, when completed, would open up the country to more economic activities. He said the council also approved a contract for the design, manufacture, supply, testing and commissioning of a 150-ton capacity railway crane for emergency and recovery of rolling stocks.
So this is to sort out if problems of accident on the track, and it's for a total cost of 3,049,544,000 naira.
12.08 billion naira has also been approved for the construction of a 45-kilometer section 2 of the Umuahia, Bende Ohafia, Arochukwu Highway to complement section 1 awarded in 2018.
With this award now, the entire length of the road is now under contract to the same contractor, and we hope for expeditious execution.
The Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, also secured approval to acquire 62 operational Black Maria vehicles for the Nigeria Correctional Service towards easing movement of awaiting trial inmates from custodial centers to the various courts in Nigeria.
This is to complement what we have already acquired between 2016 and 2019 of about 451 operational Green Maria vehicles. The objective is to ensure that the delay associated with trial of inmates is reduced, if not eliminated.
The Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs has also been given the go-ahead to hire 8 additional field auditors at 745.2 million naira for the approved forensic audit of the NDDC.
Council also considered and approved the need to attach investigative security agencies, the relevant ones, to each of the teams to ensure transparency and also to ensure that whatever comes out is acceptable to not just Nigerians but the international community.
2 memos were also approved for the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning.
One is for the procurement of 1,800 units of laptop computers for training school and computer-based test examinations at 3 Nigerian Customs Service training schools in Gwagwalada, Lagos and Kano for a sum of 351,540,000 naira with a completion period of 6 weeks. The minister also got another approval for 197 million naira for the expansion of Nigeria Customs Services cash management software in compliance with international public sector accounting standards. This, once again, is going to enhance the efficiency of the Department of Customs.
3.7 billion naira was also approved for the Ministry of Petroleum Resources as augmentation of the contract for the construction of the corporate headquarters of PTDF in Abuja. As Information Minister Lai Muhammad explained, the building has already been completed and put to use, but since governance is a continuum, the augmentation inherited since 2012 had to be honored. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
In another development, President Muhammad Buhari will on Thursday depart Abuja for Guinea-Bissau to attend ceremonies celebrating the National Day of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau, September 24. The president will join the heads of state and government of Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Rwanda, Mauritania, Togo and Liberia to mark the 47th independence anniversary of Guinea-Bissau. A presidency statement says while in Bissau, President Buhari will also commission a road named in his honor by the host government. The Nigerian leader and other invited heads of state will attend an official lunch hosted by President Umaru Sissoco Embalo of Guinea-Bissau. Nigeria and Guinea-Bissau established diplomatic relations in 1974, if we recall. Following a military coup in that country, Nigeria in 2012 deployed troops under the auspices of ECOWAS mission in Guinea-Bissau to maintain peace. President Buhari had, in response to a request for assistance by the government of Guinea-Bissau during its last legislative elections, donated $500,000, 17 vehicles and 350 electoral kits to support the country's electoral process. A look at other issues. For persons with disabilities, life is already tough, but the situation around them is worsened when family members and society pay deaf ears to their plight. On the occasion of the International Week for the Deaf, the British government and the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities are exploring ways of enhancing communication channels for these categories of citizens in Nigeria. Let's get the details from Kelvin Ehunwahi.
There are approximately 25 million people living with disabilities in Nigeria. Out of this number, about 10% have hearing impairment. This week, the world is reminding them that they are not forgotten. Suleiman Uja has hearing impairment. He can't also speak, but he believes life will be a lot easier for the deaf community if the society can find a better way to listen to them.
Our deaf children growing up don't have access to sign language. The parents that give birth to them cannot sign. So bringing them to school, the school has limits.
Bridging that communication gap between hearing impaired persons and other members of the society is what the British government and the stakeholders are now working on, starting with the harmonization of the variations of sign languages to create a standard version to be studied in Nigerian schools.
It's a fantastic goal to have, with small steps along the way, but also supporting. The most important thing is for the parents themselves to learn, because the child needs to be supported at home.
We are working to establish the offices of the Commission in the 6 geopolitical zones and each of the states in the Federation. But once we are able to have this by next year, then our activities is no more an Abuja business. It is going to be a community-based approach.
Outcomes from this dialogue are expected to form part of a blueprint to help the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities evolve programs for the affected persons in the country. In Abuja, Kelvin Ehunwahi, NTA News.
Well, let's expand the discourse. Joining us in the studio is a deaf, disability and human rights advocate, Oyinye Atuanya. She's going to speak more on issues arising, affecting those with hearing impairment of deaf community in the society. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
All right. Now, what would you say, in your opinion, is the main challenges facing the hearing impaired community, or deaf community, if you like, in the country?
Well, in one word, I would say representation. And representation stems from a lack of adequate communication tools. Sign language education is an essential tool for us if we really want to be inclusive, particularly with the deaf people. Deaf inclusion starts with us incorporating sign language into primary and secondary school curriculums. It's not enough that we have deaf schools. It's not enough that we have interpreters who come from the hearing community. We need to have sign language in all schools. We need our kids to learn sign language for when they're small, so that they, in turn, because it's something that we as citizens have to do for them. You know, it's the measure of our humanity. If we incorporate this into the curriculum, we have kids who from an early age are learning sign language at the same time as they are learning English, which means you can have deaf people, deaf kids in schools that have hearing kids. They can communicate, they can work together, they can travel together, they can play together, and in turn, they then go further to develop a society that is inclusive, a society where they can be integrated into the workforce, into entertainment, into any facets.
All right, let me hold your thoughts. Let me hold your thoughts there. Now, part of the outcry, of course, is the gap, you know, in terms of teaching and learning of sign languages in schools. Now, I'm bringing this question vis-a-vis the dialogue session you put together by your group.
Yes, please.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Okay, I'm talking about the gap in teaching and learning of sign languages in schools.
Yes.
Okay.
So this ties into what I was saying. I mean, it's right now we have, I can't tell you we have up to 10 deaf schools in the whole of Nigeria. I can't say that. And because of that, what happens is that we have kids who are deaf with parents who don't know how to sign. Sometimes these parents have no access to information. So what we hear is that, and what we see a lot of, is that we get deaf kids who reach us at the age of around 13. That is too late to start teaching someone sign language. So most of the time we have lost cases. But if we had more information out there, if we had this sign language in the school curriculum, then, you know, I mean, because you can imagine to take your child to a special needs school or a deaf school is quite expensive. So most of the people in the rural areas can't afford that. But if we start by incorporating sign language into the public schools, then we have created the great foundation for parents to enroll their kids, even get classes for them. If we have workshops for parents, you know, where we can teach them sign language. Once you know your child is deaf, it just solves the problem. So education is the key.
All right. Now, good news is that there's, the National Commission for Persons with Disability has been, you know, established. Now, what impact do you think, you know, that commission can bring in terms of changing the lives of these categories of persons?
Very huge impact. Why? Because now that there's a National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, the deaf people are no longer, sorry, I would say the disabled people are no longer just shelved under a ministry, you know, under a program. They are given the focus that they require. You know, disability is a very big umbrella. It cuts across health, education, entertainment, governance. A lot of women die in the hospital because they are unable to communicate to the doctors what their issue is. So now that we have a commission focused on disability awareness, equality, and inclusion, I believe that this is a right step in the direction that we intend to go.
All right, you just hit the nail on the head. Thank you very much, Onye Atwanya.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, and more issues arising. They say provision of adequate infrastructural materials and learning facilities, as well as hiring of more sign languages teachers, are some of the factors that can encourage people living with disabilities to attain desired goals in life. Now, these are some of the views of some stakeholders in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital, as the global community observes Sign Languages Day. Utube Achibong reports.
Nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Some teachers and students there from a special education center in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital, during the national anthem and the plate, who then would counter the fact that there is ability in every disability. First observed in September 23, 2018, International Day of Sign Languages is to raise awareness on the importance of sign language in the full realization of the human rights of people who are deaf. It also seeks to acknowledge various services in sign language like quality education, which is vital to the development and growth of the deaf and dumb people.
He wants to learn how to become a carpenter, that so that can be useful for himself. They want the government to help bring things for them like food.
What then is the role of sign language in the overall growth and development of these set of individuals?
It's very, very important because that is their language. That is their language. I mean, just like me and you are talking now. That is the way. They cannot hear us. They don't understand us, except there's an interpreter.
Mrs. Nse Ono is a Deputy Director, Pre-Primary, Primary and Special Education Center, Uyo, and she speaks on the activities and challenges of managing children with special needs.
You know that they cannot integrate into the society positively. People don't hear what they say, because when they leave this environment that is core, if such skill acquisition center is established, those of them that even left can come here and work. They can produce tables, they can produce a lot of things.
Some Nigerians suggest ways to ensure that these sets of people are more useful to themselves and the society.
We employ some teachers who are professional in that very aspect to help them out. The government should assist them financially.
Sign languages are for everyone, so take up the challenge. Learn sign languages to give someone a sense of belonging. In Uyo, Utibe Achibong, NTA News.
Let's pause for a break. We're back. Stay tuned. Thank you for being there. No ministry, department or agency of government will be left behind in the area of reform to meet international best practices. Director General, Bureau of Public Service Reform, Ibrahim Dansuki Arabi, said this during an interagency engagement with top officials of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency in Abuja. Adebola Brooksland Sunday reports.
These management staff of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, are in the Bureau to be acquainted with what it takes to run the department effectively and efficiently towards making it more productive, especially in the areas of reform, coordination, and strategic management.
And to collaborate reform policy initiative and development research and key intergovernment specific priorities, while still pursuing the respective mandate and goals of NIMASA.
Government of the Federation.
Dasuki Arabi pledged the commitment of the Bureau to the agreement for the nation's economic development.
By coordination of reforms, it means whatever NIMASA does in terms of reforms or service improvement, they are supposed to report back to the Bureau of Public Service Reforms.
NIMASA is the apex regulatory and promotional maritime agency in Nigeria. Adebola Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
Let's bring you global update on COVID-19. COVID-19 death toll in the United States exceeds 200,000, just as Belgium eases coronavirus restrictions despite sharp rise in cases. Joyce Ametu brings us the details.
The United States has reached another tragic milestone, recording more than 200,000 deaths from COVID-19. A report by the Coronavirus Research Center in Johns Hopkins University indicates that the U.S. has the most COVID-19 deaths in the world. In the meantime, Belgium on Wednesday slightly eased its coronavirus restrictions despite rising numbers of COVID-19 cases. The Prime Minister, Sophie Wilms, told the news conference that starting October 1, the requirements to wear face masks will no longer be mandatory in all public spaces. Plus, self-isolation period will be cut down to 7 days. Meanwhile, France is to announce stricter measures to curb the spread of coronavirus as cases skyrocketed since a nationwide lockdown was ended. The country's ministers will analyze the latest surge of more than 10,000 new cases and 78 deaths recorded in 24 hours. Data by Worldometer collated at 6 p.m. indicates that global coronavirus cases have reached 31,887,547, with 977,350 fatalities. Africa has 1,429,793 cases, 34,403 deaths, and 1,174,714 recoveries. Nigeria on Tuesday recorded 176 new cases of coronavirus with no new fatalities. Now, this was contained in an update by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. The country now has 57,613 cases, while 48,836 patients have recovered. However, the death toll from the virus remains 1,100. And that's a global update on COVID-19. I am Joyce Ometu.
And to other issues, former President Olusegun Obasanjo and all the dignitaries at a 3-day fidel prayer for the late Emir of Zazzau, Shehu Idris, have described the late monarch as bridge builder who stood firm for peace and tranquility. Suleiman Abdullahi Rugachukwu reports.
It was a gathering of political and traditional leaders, as well as religious clerics and the people. They have gathered to pray for the repose of the soul of the late monarch, who has united the people and left lasting legacies. Among the dignitaries at the Fidel prayer were former President Olusegun Obasanjo, some state governors and emirs. They all paid glowing tribute to the late monarch, especially over his firm stance for patriotism, humility, and good virtues.
A conciliator, a mediator, a man of peace, a man who shows no discrimination.
It is our prayer that God Almighty will grant him Al-Jannah Fidel, and that those of us that are left behind will have the fortitude, the courage to bear this image.
Governor Nasru Ahmad El-Rufai acknowledged contributions of the late Emir towards successes he recorded in his time to develop Kaduna State. He prayed Allah to bless Kaduna State with more patriotic leaders, as exemplified by late Shehu Idris. As condolences continue, people of Zazzau Emirate await the announcement of a new monarch. From Zaria, Suleiman Abdullahi Rigachku, NTA News.
Well, it has been tears and sadness for many residents of Lokoja and indeed Kogi State following a fatal petrol tanker accident early Wednesday morning, with several persons dead and many lying critically injured in hospitals in various parts of the state. Ajibola Christopher, who visited the scene of the accident, brings us this report.
It can better be described as a Black Wednesday in Kogi State, as a petrol tanker with fuel ignited after an accident in the early morning traffic gridlock at Filele area along Lokoja-Abuja Express Road. At least 25 persons were burnt beyond recognition in the carnage said to be the worst tragedy that have ever happened in Kogi State in recent times.
Not the motor where they in front. The enter cutter, thing catch fire. Don't finish. Now start back crane they run. Run reach GT before I come.
The ill-fated tanker spilled its content on the road, the median, and it caught fire, burning trapped passengers in the vehicle, tricycles, as well as nearby houses and shops.
Our governor, His Excellency Alhaji Ayado, sends his condolence. He is also immediately coming from Abuja because of this incident. But before his arrival, I have come to first pacify all of us and also tell you that as much as government can do, we will try to prevent this kind of occurrences.
Security agencies, the Red Cross, the State Emergency Management Agency, and other good-spirited individuals have conveyed injured persons to nearby hospitals.
What we advise is mass burial, but before long, some relatives were able to turn up, and about 15 bodies were identified and were allowed to be carried. And then, of course, they have moved the remaining bodies to the local government secretariat.
In Lokoja, Ajibola Christopher, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari lauds Chairman, United Bank for Africa, Mr. Tony Elumelu, on his being named among Time 100 most influential people of 2020. A presidency statement says the president commends Elumelu's vision of Afri-capitalism, which espouses that Africa's private sector must play a leading role in the continent's development through long-term investments, entrepreneurship, and regional connectivity, adding that it was just a matter of time before such caught global attention. President Buhari says Elumelu's commitment to the development of African youths, whom he has given a voice and empowerment, investing $5,000 in 1,000 young entrepreneurs per year across 54 countries, pedestals him as a visionary with milk of human kindness, and such, among others, must have qualified him for the Time Hall of Fame. The president wishes Elumelu greater successes on all fronts and recommends his strides to other high net worth people. Well, let's talk sports. Nigeria's Super Eagles recently shot a 7-year high on the FIFA ranking with the feat drawing commendation for the team. But how has coach Kenneth Raw been able to spearhead Nigeria's surge at the top of the table? Let's get the details with Bade Adelea.
Prior to the appointment of Kenneth Raw in August 2016, the Super Eagles were experiencing a free fall in the FIFA ranking, with Nigeria dropping to as low as 67th in the world and 16th in Africa. Evidently, the new man in charge was handed the task of revamping the team and taking them up the ranking. For Raw, it was challenge accepted. And by August 2017, a great start to the 2018 World Cup qualifiers had seen Nigeria move up to 38th in the world and 6th in Africa. After a not too impressive outing at the Russia 2018 World Cup, the Eagles dropped to 49th in the world and 7th in Africa. But by September 2019, they had moved to 34th in the world and 3rd in Africa. Now, it's been a year after that, and the 2013 African champions are 29th in the world, whilst remaining 3rd on the continent.
If you play 49 games as a national team under Kenneth Raw and won 29 of those games, drawn 11 and lost 9 of those games, not too much of a bad result. And this is the reason why the Super Eagles have been making progress as regards to FIFA ranking.
He was given a freer room to operate, and of course you cannot be paying a coach that huge and you say he shouldn't perform.
There have been some fond memories for Nigeria since the introduction of the ranking system by FIFA in December 1992. The peak was in April 1994 when the Super Eagles shot to 5th in the world rankings and 4th.
We're done with the news, but before we go, remember to connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists. Bye.